Story goes that there was once a shoe company in London and they wanted to expand into Africa. And so they sent a representative to Africa to see if it was a viable place for them to expand operations. That person flew to Africa, they spent months there, and they saw that no one was really wearing shoes. This was 50 years ago, 60 years ago, in the villages, in the countryside, in the rural areas. They went back to London, they told their boss, the company executive, and they said that, look, sir, there's really no scope for expanding into Africa because no one wears shoes. Now, their competitor, they did the exact same thing. 50 years ago, let's say the story goes, they went and sent a representative to Africa. Another representative went, they flew there, they scoped out the country, north, south, east, west. They came back and they told their boss, sir, there is tremendous scope in Africa because no one wears shoes. Okay, the first person went and said, there's no scope because no one wears shoes. The second person said there is tremendous scope because of the same reason, no one wears shoes. The world is a reflection of your own consciousness. The same story can relate to you differently as it can relate to me. The first person thought, no one's going to buy shoes in Africa. The second person said, everyone's going to buy. In fact, no one has them at all. It's a monopoly situation. If you're scared to invest in property, you just need to change the story that you are telling yourself. Look, I get it. You're scared of making a mistake. In this episode, I'll go through 4 reasons why you're perhaps scared to take the first step, the second step, actually set yourself up financially with wealth, with passive income. You're scared to make the first step, the next step, 4 reasons and how to overcome them.
Do you want to achieve wealth and passive income through property investing? PK Gupta, host of Oz Property Investment Mastery, will help you achieve passive income by buying top 5% growth and positive cash flow property and building a portfolio using data without you wasting months of time doing research, spending weekends at inspections, or dropping $10,000 to $20,000 on buyer's agents each time. So if you are confused and overwhelmed by the amount of contradictory information available online and don't know where to start, then this show is for you.
So the first reason is that there is so much information on the internet. I get it, right? On podcasts, including mine, including YouTube videos, including Facebook groups. Like these days, there's probably like 20 Facebook groups. They're all saying different things. Every expert, of which there's about 25 million, has an agenda. Everyone's trying to sell you something. All your family and friends have different biases, different things that have worked for them in the past. People are saying different things. There's contradictory strategies. They seem to be all working. They seem to be not working at all. You know that no one cares about your money as much as you do. And hours of scrolling through realestate.com, domain, and all of this stuff is really just causing you to tear your hair out. You're overwhelmed and you're confused. Too much information. Look, there's a brilliant author. His name is Daniel Kahneman, and he ran a study on positivity, all right? Positivity and negativity. What he found that if you are exposed to negative and overwhelming images or stimulus or stories or people, negative thoughts impact you 5 times more than if you were exposed to positive things. All right. So our minds have this negative bias. They gravitate towards negativity. That gravitational pull is 5 times stronger, more forceful than positive thought. So when you're researching property, you're thinking, how can I not make a mistake? How can I prevent myself from buying in the wrong suburb? How can I prevent myself from buying the wrong property? How can I limit my exposure to all these sharks who are trying to sell me properties or sell me courses or mentorship programs or, subscriptions? You're coming at it from a thought process of negativity, which is natural, according to the study done by Daniel Kahneman. Instead, focus on the positive achievement that you can accomplish from investing in property in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. What will having done it correctly allow you to achieve? What will it mean for your lifestyle? What will it mean for your family, for your future, if you do everything correctly, if you do everything well in a well-measured, accurate way? If you approach your research, if you approach your interviews with experts, seeing who's the best to help you from a positive mindset instead of preventing yourself being the victim, then that is going to take you a long way to expunging that overwhelm, that confusion, that, quite frankly, scaremongering that our minds are telling ourselves. Okay, so it's a different type of episode, as you can already see from this one, but I genuinely think that it's no less valuable than all the data-driven episodes that we've covered in hundreds of shows before. So that's the first one: how to overcome overwhelm, change your mindset. The second one is, someone close to you might have talked you out of improving your life through property investing, like that uncle, that friend, that auntie, that colleague at work, at a barbecue, at the train station, because when they invested 10 years ago, they, didn't have any growth for the first 5 years. When they invested 20 years ago, they had that tenant that trashed the place. When they trusted that property expert 3 years ago, that property expert took them for a ride and it was a massive scam and a huge ripoff, right? You are being scared because of all of this content that you're consuming, not only online, but offline, from these friends, family, colleagues who are well-meaning, but are actually disturbing your mind. The attainment of contentment, how content you are, is a product of the content you put inside your brain. And sometimes this content is filling our brain involuntarily by just those that you associate with, right? You're not associating with people who have already built property portfolios, that have already got that six-figure passive income. If you change your association, you can improve that content and your level of content, and therefore actually take great strides and be motivated to actually improve your life through property investing. A good example is, like in places like India or Africa, Indonesia, Philippines, so many other places, oftentimes what they do, and I'm not saying this is a good thing, by the way, but what they do is they take a baby elephant and they tie a rope around its leg, not in a harsh way that's going to cause it pain, but just loosely, and they tie the other end of that rope to just a small little log, or you could say a stick that's pushed against the soil, the dirt. Now, the elephant actually, he thinks or she thinks that it's tied there and they can't escape. They can only go around a radius of, let's say, 2 meters around that rope. I'm not going to comment on whether it's humane or inhumane, but it's a practice that goes on for a long time in history. Now, what happens is, as that elephant grows up, now they're 5 years old, 10 years old, they're this strong animal. What happens is that the trainer or the owner of the elephant, or whatever you want to call them, they still tie a flimsy little rope, not in a painful way, but in a loose way around their foot, and the other side of the rope is tied to that stick that goes into the soil. Now, this now muscular animal can easily break free from that stick, from that rope. But because it's conditioned to thinking that it can't from when it was a baby, because it's conditioned into thinking in a particular way, it still remains within a radius of 2 meters around that stick in the ground. All right. The point here is that if you're conditioning your mind according to the limiting beliefs of those around you and all the the horrible stories that you hear, then even when you consume more and more and more and more content, even if you become more educated, even if you have consumed so much content that your mind is spinning, you still won't have confidence. And the reason is that you've conditioned your mind already. Even though you can actually take the first step, you probably know more than 50% of people, you still think you don't because of that conditioning. So beware of that conditioning. The third thing in which or by which you're scared is because society, and especially the media, tells you to be afraid of investing because you might make a mistake. The media tells you to be afraid of making money. All right, I'll say that again. The media tells you to be afraid of making money. We all know this. Fear sells more than facts. Fear sells more than reality. The reality is way more balanced 100% of the time than the extremists on the right and the extremists on the left. So you know what I'm talking about. The big banks come out and say last year or 10 years or 20 years or 30 years ago that the property market's going to crash by 30%. There's this guy who sells a book. He's been predicting the property market in Australia will crash by 40% every year for the last 10 years. When there is a problem, Evergrande or GFC or COVID or now the next version of COVID or now inflation or interest rates increasing. I remember, every year there is something to be fearful of, right? Last year it was COVID. The year before it was that the Australian economy is very weak. The year before it was that negative gearing is going to go away. The year before in 2016 it was that the property boom is ending. The year before in 2015 it was that the property market is booming and now it's unaffordable. Back to 2011 people were saying the property market is not worth investing in because Sydney hasn't grown in 8 years. Every year there is a reason not to invest in property. And the media sells you this because this is how they get you to click the ad. You know what I'm talking about when you're scrolling through YouTube, you're scrolling through Facebook, you're scrolling through the internet in general, the clickbait titles, all of that sort of stuff. They need to sell you a piece of content, an editorial piece. And the only reason you're going to click that and be motivated enough to engage with that is if it strikes fear in your mind. Think about it. If you watch CNN, the 24-hour news cycle, are you going to live a happy life? No. So that's the problem. 80% of people do consume that type of content. Therefore, they think that the rich have some kind of secret. They think that those who are wealthy were born into it, that they have some sort of strategy that is only available to those who are wealthy, that they're just lucky. All of this is garbage. I can tell you this is garbage. It's just silly. All right? It's like, there's this story of 3 bricklayers, and the person went up to the first bricklayer and they asked, what are you doing? And the bricklayer looked back up at the person asking, saying, can't you see what I'm doing? I'm like clearly laying bricks. Like, what are you talking about? This is pretty obvious. He said, okay, all right. So the person went to the second bricklayer, and the second bricklayer answered, oh, I'm a part of a team and I'm building a building. All right, so that's what I'm doing. A little bit more evolved consciousness. And this person said, cool, thank you. And then the person went to the third bricklayer and they asked, what are you doing? And the bricklayer paused for a moment and they looked up at the sky and they said that I'm building the most magnificent, the largest, the most opulent cathedral in all of Europe, right? And those bricklayers, this is a true story, they were building St. Paul's Cathedral, right? So the point is that one person can be so myopic and narrow-minded and think, oh, I'm having to lay bricks for a living and, blah, 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 blah. And the third bricklayer, the third person with a completely different evolution of consciousness is actually seeing the forest from the trees, seeing how this fits into their greater purpose, all right? So don't let the media put a downer every single month, every single year. I want you to see the truth for yourself. See the forest from the trees and see your life, what it can become in 10 years and 15 years, even in 5 years, if you actually just put aside the media and follow the facts, follow real people, real stories, real data, real attainment of success. Now, the fourth thing that I wanted to say, the reason why you may be scared of investing in property, is that you have a I can't do attitude, right? I can't do attitude. I'm too busy. Connect with this point, guys. I know so many of you will be resonating right now. I'm too busy. I can't invest in property. It's too hard. I've tried. I failed, or I haven't tried yet, but it just seems too hard. I can't do it. It's confusing. Right, it's too many moving parts. The jigsaw piece is too hard, right? The puzzle is too overwhelming. It's mind-boggling. How many dreams have been killed by people telling themselves, not others, it's just them fooling themselves that I'm too busy for this, I'll do it later, it's too hard, it's not for me, right? There are more than 2 million property investors in Australia. It's not like there are more than 2 million people in Australia with an IQ above 150 or over 200, right? Anyone can invest in property. There's an amazing story of the Eiffel Tower that proves this concept, or this principle of I can do. You know, back when they were thinking about building the Eiffel Tower in Paris, actually people were so happy with the existing skyline of Paris. You know, you've got the Cathedral of Notre Dame and all that kind of thing, that they actually disparaged the Eiffel Tower, this black, as it was initially intended to be, you know, metallic beast of a structure will just be the undoing of the artistic landscape of Paris, which is an artistic, beautiful, exquisite city in obviously Europe. And so what their initial plan is that they would just fashion up this Eiffel Tower. They would build this tower just for 20 years. There was going to be this exhibition, which was going to, you know, be almost the hallmark or the flagship kind of expose where Paris would reveal its artistic wonders to the world, or the known world, right? This was back in the late 1800s. Now, what actually happened is that the architect, he needed to fight to get his voice heard. He needed to, you know, really fight against all these artisans. Remember, Paris was a city of artisans. He needed to fight to get this thing built. But when it was built, then all of the general populace, all of the community, all of society, they realized that how amazing this structure was. And instead of tearing it down after 20 years like was the initial plan, they chose to keep it. And actually it became the centerpiece of Paris. It became the main draw card for Paris, even more so than the cathedrals and so many other things, right? So the point of that story is that you have to start. If this architect had said, well, you know, everyone's right. I mean, Paris is a beautiful city. Why do we need this tower? He wouldn't have achieved anything, and Paris probably wouldn't have been the city that it is today in the eyes of the world, right? You need to start. You need to have a can-do attitude. No one is going to create your dreams for you. You can't pay a company $10,000, $5,000, $20,000, $50,000. You can't even pay me to create your dreams for you. At the end of the day, folks like myself, you know, we can help you and teach you how to fly your plane. We can help you get the parts of the plane. We can teach you how to pilot, how to navigate, how to use the radar. But you need to use that plane. You need to fly that plane yourself. No, you can't outsource your dreams. That's just not a good policy in life, because no one cares about you as much as you do, right? You can learn that the easy way, or you can learn that the hard way. Going back to some of the earlier 3 points, the point is that no one cares about your money as much as you do. So whether it's about you being, number one, scared of making the wrong decision, number two, having friends or family talking you out of improving your life. Number 3, having the media tell you it's too hard and only for rich people. Or number 4, having a I can't do attitude. If you have one of these 4 deficiencies, I want to be bold enough to say, you need to do some inner work. No amount of content that folks like me produce about the efficacy of property investing, the data, why you should invest, where you should invest, why you should not invest here, why you should invest there, what is the best strategy, client results, all this kind of thing. None of that is going to have an impact unless you do some inner work. Right? Inner work. An iceberg, if you look at the tip of the iceberg, it looks not very big at all, but it's there because of the depth and the size of the iceberg below the surface of the water. That's what sank the Titanic. The Titanic was not sunk by just the 10-foot piece of ice that was above the surface of the water. It was sunk by the 100 meters of that ice that was below the surface that they didn't see. Right? That is what sank the Titanic. So what will sink your fear of investing in property is to completely change the content that you're consuming. Number 1 is to change the people that you're associating with. Number 2 is to change or completely ignore what the media, the clickbait titles, even places like Australian Financial Review, Sydney Morning Herald, news.com, all of these are saying, what the banks are saying, Channel 7, Channel 9, 10, A Current Affairs, 60 Minutes. These shows have ruined more people's dreams than they have created. I'm going to be so proud or bold enough to say. And the 4th thing is to have a I can do attitude. Anyone can invest in property. Of course, you need to have enough funds. You need to have, $50,000 or $40,000 a deposit. You need to have $50,000, $60,000 income. But if you do have that, then it's such a terrific way to set yourself up for the future. That's all really I wanted to say in this episode. If it's to be, it's up to me. Think about that. If it's to be, it's up to me. So if you're still scared of investing in property, really take heed of these 4 points. Do some inner work before then you lift your computer screen again or look at your phone and do the outer work. Everything starts from inside. All right, guys, my name's PK, and I genuinely hope this brought you a ton of value. Take care.